You weren't left behind. You were withheld, because the world you thought you were ready for wasn't ready for you. Allah doesn't reveal his masterpieces in crowded rooms. He reveals them in divine silence. And when your moment comes, it won't feel like a beginning. It'll feel like destiny catching up. 1. You weren't supposed to be seen yet. You keep asking yourself, why can't they see me? Why does it feel like I'm invisible, like I don't matter, like I'm slowly fading into the background of everyone's life? You show up, you try to smile, you try to be present, but it's like the world looks right through you. You feel forgotten. You feel like you're falling behind while everyone else is being celebrated. You wonder if you're doing something wrong, if maybe you're just not special enough, not talented enough, not loved enough. But please listen closely. You weren't supposed to be seen yet. Not like this. Not while you're still learning how to breathe after the storm. Not while your soul is still tender. Not while your heart is still healing from being cracked open in silence. Allah doesn't expose what he's still shaping. He doesn't display what isn't finished. And right now, you are in his hands. You're in the middle of being made. You're in the middle of a sacred transformation that no one else can see, because it wasn't meant for them. If people had seen you now, they would have misunderstood everything. They would have labeled your stillness as weakness. They would have called your quiet growth failure. They would have pointed to your loneliness and said, look, even God left them. But they would have been wrong. So wrong. Because the truth is, this is the most loved you've ever been. This is the closest you've ever been to your Lord. And this invisibility, it isn't punishment, it's protection. Allah covered you. He gently placed a veil over your process. He blocked the attention. He delayed the applause. He paused the progress you thought you wanted, because what's being formed inside you is too valuable to be exposed too early. You're not just healing, you're being reborn. And rebirth is messy, it's raw, it's sacred, it requires silence, not spotlights. You wanted people to clap for your growth, but Allah wanted you to grow so deeply that even you wouldn't recognize who you used to be. He wanted you to know what it feels like to rise, without validation, to walk, without needing to be followed, to grow, without performing for anyone's approval. That kind of strength can't be built in public. It has to be born in isolation. It has to be shaped in rooms where only Allah is watching. And maybe that's why you feel like no one sees you. Because you're not meant to be seen yet. You're not meant to be understood yet. Because the version of you that's coming isn't the one they used to know. She's wiser, she's softer, she's braver, she's real. And when it's time, when the stitching is done, when the healing has settled, when your soul is strong enough to carry the light without apology, Allah will lift the curtain, not for their approval, but for his purpose. You won't need to prove yourself. You won't need to explain your silence. You won't need to rush your unveiling, because what Allah hides in secret, he reveals in beauty. And when you're finally seen, they'll realize you were never invisible. You were simply becoming unforgettable. So rest, breathe, trust the hiddenness. Because the version of you that's being born right now isn't meant to arrive in front of people. She's meant to arrive in front of him. And when she does, the whole world will see what only Allah knew was growing all along. 2. Your loneliness was a language, and Allah was the only one who understood it. You've been feeling it for a while now. That ache, that silence that wraps around your chest at night. That feeling of being surrounded by people, but somehow still completely alone. You scroll through your phone, you check your messages, you wait for someone to ask how you're doing, but the screen stays quiet. Your heart stays heavy, and you whisper to yourself, why am I always the one left behind? Why do I care so deeply, but feel forgotten so easily? You try to pretend you're okay, You smile in public, but behind closed doors, your soul is whispering things even you don't know how to explain. Let me tell you something you were never told, that emptiness inside you. It's not meaningless, it's not weakness, it's not punishment. It's a language, a spiritual language, one that doesn't use words, one that most people around you can't hear, but Allah does. Your loneliness was never silent to Him. It was loud, it was deep, it was sacred. It was your soul crying out in a voice only its creator could understand. You didn't even know how to say what you were feeling, but Allah already heard it, before it turned into tears, before it became heavy in your chest, before it broke your sleep. He heard the exact sound your heart was making when it said, "I just want to be held. I just want to feel safe. I just want to stop breaking in places no one can see." You kept thinking your loneliness meant something was wrong with you. But maybe your loneliness was a bridge, a pull, a divine invitation to finally come back to the one who never left. Because sometimes Allah removes the noise so you can finally hear your own soul speak. Sometimes He clears the room, not to leave you in pain, but to finally give you space to notice His presence. Because the truth is, when everyone else stopped checking on you, He didn't. When no one saw the weight you were carrying, He did. When no one responded to the cry in your silence, He already had the answer prepared. This is why your heart couldn't find comfort in people anymore, why their words felt shallow, why their presence felt far, even when they were close. Because your soul wasn't reaching for a person, it was reaching for God. And He's been responding, not always with noise, but with stillness, with peace, with subtle signs that only the eyes of a lonely heart could recognize. That moment when you randomly felt calm out of nowhere, that was Him. That verse that hit differently at 2 a.m., that was Him. That quiet strength that showed up when you thought you'd fall apart, that was Him. You thought loneliness was breaking you, but it was actually translating your pain into a language that heaven understood. It was proof that even when you had no one, you still had access to the one who owns hearts, the one who listens even when you don't speak, the one who doesn't need an explanation to show mercy, so the next time it hurts. When the silence feels too loud, when the emptiness makes you wonder if you're forgotten, remember this: your loneliness is not empty space. It's sacred ground. It's where Allah comes closest. It's where you stop performing and He starts revealing. Because in that pain, He's teaching you how to be known without ever needing to be seen. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize that it was in your loneliest moments where Allah loved you the loudest. 3. Their silence was permission, not abandonment. They used to call, they used to check on you, they used to be there, at least a little. But now, silence, nothing. Conversations faded, plans got cancelled, messages were left on read, and you sat there wondering, what did I do wrong? Why are they pulling away? Why does everyone leave when I need them the most? You started blaming yourself. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you were too quiet. Maybe you weren't good enough to keep around. But child, what if I told you their silence wasn't your fault? What if I told you their absence wasn't a rejection? It was a release, a permission slip from the heavens that said, you don't need them to become who you were meant to be. You were waiting for an apology. But Allah gave you clarity. You were waiting for closure, but Allah gave you distance instead. Because closure isn't always found in someone's explanation. Sometimes it's found in Allah's protection. They stopped showing up not because you were worthless, but because they were no longer written in your becoming. They were part of your past, not your prophecy. You kept trying to carry everyone with you, But some people were only meant to walk with you until a certain mile. They weren't built to breathe in the altitude of who you're becoming. And so, Allah let their hands slip. He let their calls fade. He let their energy disappear from your life. Not to hurt you, but to free you from needing their permission to grow. You don't need to be understood by people who can't even hear their own soul. You don't need to keep explaining your heart to people who only listen to respond, never to understand. You don't need to keep chasing those who were only meant to witness your breakdown, not your rebirth. Their silence was permission. Permission to stop performing, permission to stop proving, permission to finally build something real without asking them to clap. Because let's be honest, if they had stayed, you would have kept shrinking. You would have kept bending your truth to make them comfortable. You would have kept editing yourself just to avoid being alone. But Allah wanted you whole, not half-loved. He wanted you free, not tolerated. He wanted you to finally realize you were enough without them. So He made their silence loud. Loud enough that you had no choice but to turn inward, to look up, to finally ask, Ya Allah, who am I without them? And that's when the real healing started. Because when people stop speaking, Allah speaks louder. When they fall silent, He fills the space with signs. When they stop choosing you, He starts revealing you. So don't mistake their absence as evidence that you're unloved. It's evidence that you're evolving, and not everyone is allowed to see who you're becoming. Some doors don't close because you're forgotten. They close because you're being chosen. And chosen ones? They're often pulled away first. Not to be punished, but to be prepared. 4. You were being disarmed, so you could finally rise without defending yourself. You've been strong for too long. You've carried yourself through storms no one even knew about. You've smiled through chaos. You've been the calm in everyone else's crisis, while hiding the war going on inside you. And slowly, without even realizing it, you became your own armor. You learned how to guard your heart, how to keep your distance, how to expect the worst before it could hurt you. You said, "I'm fine," too many times, until even you started to believe it. You forgot what it felt like to just be, to breathe without fear, to exist without a wall around your soul. But then something happened. You started breaking. Not all at once, but little by little. Your confidence cracked, your energy faded, your defenses stopped working, and you began to feel things you had locked away for years. Sadness, fear, loneliness, need. At first, it scared you. You thought you were falling apart, but you weren't falling apart. You were being disarmed. Allah was removing everything you used to protect yourself, not to expose you, but to free you, because the armor that once kept you safe is now keeping you stuck. You built those walls to survive, but now they're blocking your healing. You learned to fight for love, but now you need to receive it. You learned to expect betrayal, but now you need to trust, at least in Allah's plan. You learned to stay silent, but now He wants your heart to speak again, and so He started peeling it all off. The pride, the defense mechanisms, the old stories you kept repeating in your head just to feel in control. Yes, it hurts, because losing your armor feels like losing your identity, but maybe that identity was built in pain, not in truth. Maybe you've only known yourself as the strong one because you never had the chance to feel safe enough to be soft. But Allah is rewriting that now. He's reminding you that strength isn't in how much you hide. It's in how honest you can be with Him. It's in how willing you are to say, "Ya Allah, I don't want to fight anymore. I just want to feel again." You were being disarmed, not to break you, but to restore you. So you can rise again without having to prove anything. So you can walk into your next chapter without carrying the pain of your last one. So you can finally sit in rooms where you don't have to shrink just to be accepted. You're not weak because you're tired of being strong. You're not broken because you're finally feeling everything you buried. You're just becoming real. You're just becoming free. And when Allah is the one who disarms you, He never leaves you exposed. He covers you in His mercy. He surrounds you with protection you don't even see. And when you rise again, you'll rise with peace, with softness that doesn't make you fragile, but holy, with strength that doesn't need to defend, because it's anchored in trust. You won't have to explain yourself anymore. You won't have to fight to be understood, because the version of you Allah is building now won't need armor. She will carry something stronger. She will carry divine permission to be whole. 5. Invisibility was your protection, not your curse. You kept looking around, wondering why no one noticed, why no one picked you, why they didn't respond to your efforts, your care, your existence. You were present, but somehow invisible. You smiled, but no one asked if it was real. You gave your all, but it was never enough to be remembered, and it started eating at you slowly. You began to ask questions that burned your chest. What am I doing wrong? Why does it feel like the world sees everyone else but me? Why am I always the one left behind, while others get chosen, seen, celebrated? You tried harder. You made yourself smaller in some places, louder in others. You adapted. You bent. You became versions of yourself that weren't even real, just to be noticed. But still, you felt invisible. And here's the truth that no one told you. Your invisibility wasn't your curse. It was your protection. It was Allah wrapping a veil around you, because the eyes you were trying to impress were not meant to witness your becoming. If they had seen you too soon, they would have misjudged you. They would have called your sacred stillness wasted time. They would have clapped for your surface while ignoring your soul. Some people only know how to celebrate what they can use, and Allah loved you too much to let your worth be tied to their attention. So He hid you, not because you were forgettable, but because you were formless, still being shaped, still being designed in the quiet of divine hands. You weren't ready to be seen, not because you lacked something, but because what you carried was too holy to be exposed too soon. You thought being overlooked meant you weren't good enough. But sometimes, Allah hides His favorites. He shields them in silence. He lets them grow in the dark, away from shallow praise, away from performance, away from the pressure to be something before you truly are. You were hidden, not to be forgotten, but to be preserved, to be held away from eyes that only understand surface-level stories, to be protected from voices that would have spoken over your destiny without knowing what Allah was about to write. Some lights aren't made for crowds, they're made for impact. And impact needs depth. It needs patience. It needs silence. So while others were seen early, you were being saved for something later, something greater, something they'll never see coming. And when that moment comes, when Allah finally reveals what He's been building in you, you won't rise out of nowhere. You'll rise from everywhere you were once invisible. You'll rise with dignity, with silence behind you and purpose in front of you. You won't need to shout. You won't need to compete. You won't need to ask, "Can you see me now?" Because when Allah says now, everything that ignored you will have no choice but to notice. So if you still feel invisible today, don't rush. Don't beg to be seen. Stay hidden. Stay planted. Stay close to the one who sees everything, without you needing to perform, because invisibility in this world might just mean you were being seen first by the one who matters most. 6. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to be rebuilt. You tried. You really did. You tried to fit in, to blend in, to be like them. to think like them, to talk like them, to move like them, to be someone they would finally accept. You watered yourself down. You edited your soul. You shrunk your voice so they could feel louder. You hid your depth dash so they wouldn't call you too much. You ignored your own instincts just to stay part of a circle that never really saw you. And still, you felt like a stranger. You could be in a room full of people and still feel like your spirit was standing alone in the corner. You kept thinking, if I just try harder, they'll get me. If I just stay quiet, they'll let me stay. If I just keep smiling, maybe they'll finally accept me. But child, you were never supposed to fit in, because what they wanted you to become was a version of yourself that Allah never wrote for you. You kept trying to belong in spaces that couldn't hold your soul. You kept trying to be enough for people who were never assigned to witness your realness. You kept trying to earn love in places Allah was calling you to leave. And now you feel tired of bending, tired of pretending, tired of giving your softness to spaces that only understand surfaces. But that tiredness, it's not depression, it's not failure, it's not you falling apart, it's your soul rebelling against everything that isn't you anymore. You were never made to blend in. You were made to break free, to unlearn, to unbecome, to be rebuilt, piece by divine piece, in the hands of the one who knew your name, before you ever lost yourself trying to please people. Allah didn't let you fit in because He was protecting your originality, because He designed your heart for something higher, something louder in spirit but softer in ego, something bigger than applause and deeper than fitting a mold. You weren't meant to fit in the room. You were meant to rebuild the room, to walk in with your quiet truth and change the atmosphere with nothing but presence. But first, you had to be torn down, not by people, but by truth, by silence, by divine discomfort. You had to outgrow your surroundings, so He made the old spaces feel small. He made the conversations feel fake. He made the friendships feel shallow, not to punish you, but to pull you out. Because the version of you He's building now doesn't just want peace, it requires it. It doesn't just seek purpose, it breathes it. And anything that tries to make you feel like you're too much was never meant to stay. So stop asking why you never felt like you belonged. You weren't broken, you were becoming. And becoming doesn't happen in rooms that expect you to stay small. Becoming happens in the wilderness, in the silence, in the isolation where Allah says, "Let me rebuild you without their hands all over you." And when the building is done, you won't just be someone who found peace. You'll be someone who finally came home to themselves and never asked for permission again. 7. You're not delayed. You're being made undeniable. You see them, don't you? Everyone seems to be moving, progressing, winning, being seen, being chosen, being celebrated. And then there's you, still waiting, still hidden, still stuck between "I'm trying" and "what's the point?" You keep telling yourself to stay patient, but your chest feels heavier by the day. You smile for others and cry in places no one can see. You pretend like you're fine, but you're quietly asking Allah, when is it my turn? Why do I feel so behind? What am I doing wrong? But beloved, you're not behind. You're not delayed. You're not being punished. You're being prepared, and not just for anything. You're being prepared for something so real, so heavy, so divine, that if it came too soon, it would have crushed you under its weight. See, fast success isn't always true success. Early visibility doesn't always mean real purpose. Sometimes Allah slows you down because He loves you too much to let you build something that can't survive the storm. What He's doing in you takes depth, takes process, takes private pressure. that no one else sees, because the thing about greatness is that it never grows in public first. It grows in silence, in long nights where you question everything, in quiet days where nothing makes sense, in prayers that don't get answered right away. Not because he doesn't hear you, but because he's still writing the answer into you. You wanted speed, but Allah is giving you substance. You wanted now, but he's giving you forever. He's delaying your spotlight, so your light can't be dimmed by people who only love you when you're useful. He's delaying your arrival, so that when you finally show up, no one can deny what you carry, because it won't be personality, it won't be talent, it will be divine weight, the kind that speaks even when you say nothing, the kind that's felt before it's seen. You don't want a moment. You want impact, and impact takes longer because it requires Allah to strip everything in you that's still dependent on applause. It requires him to silence the parts of you that still seek permission to shine. It requires a crushing of ego and the building of a soul that stands even when no one claps. So no, you're not delayed. You're being made undeniable. So when he releases you, no one can question what he's done in you. No one can take credit for your growth. No one can manipulate your self-worth, because they didn't see the nights you begged for peace. They didn't hear the silent sobs in sujood. They didn't witness the days you kept going with no reward in sight. But Allah did. And he's the one writing your name in places your feet haven't touched yet. He's the one scheduling your arrival. For a moment that won't need an announcement, because what's meant can never miss you. So breathe. Stop measuring your life by their timeline. Stop rushing what Allah is taking his time to perfect. He's not just building your success, he's building you. And when he's done, you won't be the one chasing your moment. The moment will search for you, because you weren't built to be fast. You were built to be undeniable. 8. They can't walk with the version of you that's coming. You keep looking back, hoping they'll return, hoping they'll finally understand who you're becoming, hoping the connection can be revived, because you once loved them deeply. You once shared everything, and letting go still feels like losing a part of yourself. They knew the old you, the soft you, the version that said yes too quickly and questioned your own worth too slowly. They laughed with you, cried with you, grew with you. But they also held your past like it was your ceiling. And now, as Allah is slowly rewriting you from the inside out, you can feel it, can't you? That quiet distance, that uncomfortable silence, that spiritual gap between who you were and who you're becoming. And it hurts, because your heart is loyal. You wanted to take them with you. You wanted them to see the new light Allah is awakening in you. You wanted to say, look, I'm still me, just deeper now. But no matter how much you explain, they don't seem to hear it. They don't feel it. And some of them, they don't even care. That's when it stings. But that's also when Allah begins to whisper something painful and necessary. They can't walk with the version of you that's coming. Not because you're better, not because they're evil, but because the soul you're stepping into requires a level of purity, presence, and spiritual truth that some hearts are simply not ready to hold. See, they were meant to be in your story, just not in the ending. They were assigned to your breaking, not your rising. They were perfect for the storm that cracked you open, but not for the sunlight you're learning to stand in now. And if they stayed, you would have stayed smaller. You would have kept editing yourself to be digestible. You would have delayed your own becoming just to keep the peace. But Allah didn't create you to stay attached to what's safe. He created you to transform. And transformation requires space. Space to let go of what no longer reflects where you're going. Some people only knew how to love your wounds, not your wisdom. They loved you when you were broken, needy, uncertain. because it made them feel strong, important, close. But now that you're starting to choose peace over people, silence over noise, Allah over approval, you're too unfamiliar for them. They miss the old you, the one who kept shrinking just to keep them close. But that version of you had to die, so the one Allah wrote in your soul could live. And maybe that's the hardest part of healing, realizing that some of the people you love the most can't go with you, not because they hate you, but because they're still attached to a version of you that no longer exists. So Allah, in His mercy, lets them fade. He lets the bond stretch, the calls slow down, the energy dissolve, not to punish you, but to protect what's next. Because what's coming isn't just a new chapter. It's a new identity, one that doesn't just survive, but leads, one that doesn't beg to be chosen, but walks with God, whether seen or not. One that's rooted in obedience, not validation. Depth, not performance. Purpose, not popularity. And not everyone has the spiritual stamina to walk beside that. Not everyone can handle the silence that surrounds the soul when it's aligned with heaven. Not everyone can carry what Allah is about to place on your shoulders. So let them go, without guilt, without chasing, without over-explaining. Let the old room echo with your absence, because your presence is being redirected to a space where you'll be honored, not drained. Where you'll be chosen by alignment, not convenience. The version of you that's coming, she's too precious to be explained to people who only knew your past. She's too holy to be carried by hands that still live in the temporary. So walk forward now, even if it means walking alone. Because the ones who are meant to walk with the new you, they're not behind you, they're ahead. And Allah is preparing them too. You weren't hidden because you were weak. You were hidden because you were holy. The silence wasn't a delay. It was a divine delivery room. And now, heaven is getting ready to unveil what earth couldn't handle yet. So stay patient, stay quiet, stay unseen, because the version of you Allah wants to reveal can't be born in front of people, only in front of Him.